Welcome to NewsNation's Backscroll, where we look back at our major news coverage on the most important topics and personalities of our time.
First tonight, absolutely horrific, and there is no other way, sadly enough, to describe the new details we're getting tonight about Laken Riley's final moments. An illegal immigrant allegedly killed the 22-year-old nursing student as she jogged near the University of Georgia campus. We're still waiting for the results of a rape kit. Neighbors of the suspect, Jose Ibarra, say he stalked her on a near daily basis, watching her as she ran by his apartment day after day. We just received the affidavit that lays out the evidence against Ibarra, an illegal immigrant from Venezuela. We want to warn you, it is hard to comprehend what he did to this young woman, what he allegedly did, I should say, to this young woman. The documents say Ibarra disfigured Riley's body and skull with a heavy object. He's also accused of trying to stop her from calling 911 during the struggle, which means the struggle went on for a while. Afterwards, the documents say he tried to hide her death by dragging her body to a secluded area. What happened next is even more disturbing, and we're told it's all on videotape. George Will is here on how Riley's case is or is not changing the immigration debate in America. But we begin with NewsNation's Alex Capriello, who's got new details from Ibarra's neighbors and joins us live from the apartment complex where he lived. Alex, good evening.
Hey, good evening, Leland. Yeah, the apartment complex is right here behind me, but you'll see I'm standing on the trail. This is where Laken Riley went on her daily run, connecting this to the University of Georgia and a beautiful lake system, a popular trail. But to what you alluded to, I spent my afternoon speaking to his neighbors. He lived here with about 4 or 5 others, I'm told, for the past 5 months. Rather disturbing details about his life here, about the fact that these neighbors would just see him daily outside, sitting outside that studio apartment, watching people go by, and that includes, in their opinion, Laken Riley, who went on daily runs cutting through the apartment complex to get to this trail. But what I really learned was more information about after the murder occurred. They say that they have video evidence of him taking bloody clothes and other evidence and dumping it in a dumpster right here behind me. Take a look. This is the apartment complex where Jose Ibarra lived, and they shared new details that we had never actually heard before. These neighbors tell me that they actually have security camera footage from their own Ring doorbell cameras that shows Jose Ibarra with bloody clothes and other evidence, taking them to these dumpsters and then ditching all the evidence. These people tell me that they handed over all of that footage to the police to be used as evidence. As for Laken Riley, these neighbors tell me that they often saw her running through this apartment complex, using it as a shortcut to get to this trail. And that as for Jose Ibarra, he was somewhat of a quiet loner who sat outside of his studio apartment, which he shared with 4 other people at all hours of the day, just watching the world go by. For that reason, these neighbors believe that Ibarra watched her run, knew her route, knew her path, and made his move. Yeah, and I'll tell you, each of the neighbors I spoke to are really nervous and scared about this whole situation. Obviously, a lot of the students here at the University of Georgia are as well. I'm still seeing a lot of people running on campus, and so that's a good sign that people are still resilient. But at the same time, there are several memorials here for Laken Riley. She was a beloved part of this community. As for this apartment complex, I really wanted to dig in. How are 4 to 5 different people that I'm told are undocumented immigrants living in a single studio apartment with 1 bathroom? The apartment complex isn't answering any of my questions right now.
All right, Alex, keep on it. Great reporting on an incredibly difficult and sad story. Thank you.
There is some big news on the immigration status that NewsNation has tracked down. Tell me.
Yeah, there is. It was sort of left open-ended at the press conference because the chief just said that Ibarra was not a U.S. citizen and that he believed he had come here from Venezuela. But NewsNation's Allie Bradley, who is our border correspondent, has confirmed with her sources that Ibarra was, in fact, in the United States illegally. Her sources confirmed that Ibarra crossed the border in September of 2022, crossed over in El Paso, and that he was released due to a lack of detention space, and somehow ended up right here, living right where I'm standing in Athens, Georgia. Homeland Security investigations, ICE, they were part of the arrest today Because he is here illegally, of course, though, he will still be tried in this county. He will be in the county jail. He'll go through the normal process. But because he was here illegally and had crossed the border, the ICE authorities are also now part of the process.
Well, if they find him guilty, he's never leaving America. He got his wish. He will stay in incarceration, probably toe tag parole till he dies, unless Georgia, as I recall, has the death penalty, unless they decide to seek the death penalty in this particular case. The list of charges, I'm going to go over it in a minute, and what those charges actually mean, because there's a lot of aggravators that can be tied into those charges. But tell me about the activity in the apartments. Like, that's a lot of agencies. Like, I think the Homeland Security Investigations, Georgia Bureau of Investigations, Clark County Police, Student Police, and then the feds as well involved, and ICE. So who is searching the apartments, and have you seen them bringing anything out?
Yeah, and by the way, I wanted to remind you, we're waiting on a mugshot. We're hoping to get a mugshot. We're told we're going to get a mugshot, so as soon as we get it, we'll bring it to you right away. But you mentioned the apartment complex. I'm going to step out of the way about a mile from where her body was found, and there is still activity tonight. You've got police out here tonight, mostly Georgia Bureau of Investigations. The agents are out here going in and out of several different apartments. It's unclear which one was his. They've been talking to people out here. And what was interesting, Ashley, and we've got video of this, we watched them do this all day. They went to dumpster after dumpster after dumpster, and then they went to trash cans even across the street at the gas station and at the bus stop. And they were opening up, you see right here, they were opening up the trash bags and looking very, very carefully in every single trash bag. So there is something that they were looking for. They also looked in the hedges. It wasn't like just one of those searches where they're sort of just broadly searching for something. It was very clear they were looking, I think, for something specific, which could be very interesting.
Could be a murder weapon, could be clothing. I mean, they found him so quickly. They said they used, surveillance cameras, and I would imagine if you can find somebody that quickly, you can basically just do the popcorn trail. Every camera that he appears on and leaves is picked up by the next, and maybe along the way he ditched clothing or a murder weapon, allegedly, if he's the killer. Did they take all of the garbage with them? Because I saw them pulling it out. I saw them opening bags. But did they actually collect all that garbage and in every one of those dumpsters and garbage cans and take it with them?
No, they didn't. That's why I think they were looking for something specific, because they were going through the garbage bags. But then when they didn't see what they were looking for, they actually put it all back in the bag and then put it right back into the dumpster.
All right. So again, I just want to reiterate as we do this interview, the breaking news is that the man they arrested, Jose Antonio Ibarra, is in fact in the United States illegally from Venezuela. He crossed over the border at El Paso. He was arrested September 2022 during that border crossing. And then, as has happened over and over, he was released because they didn't have enough space for detention. And he made his way to the university campus, allegedly, to commit this murder, allegedly. I want to talk about Laken Riley, because that person deserves more coverage. This young 22-year-old woman who was a regular runner, Brian. We see the picture of her in her nursing coat. She had been a student at UGA, right? But that she transferred to do nursing at a nearby university?
That's right. She was at the University of Georgia. She was in a sorority at the University of Georgia. I mean, just look at her photos. She was bright and vibrant. She was smart. She had so many friends here. Everyone is so heartbroken. But yeah, she was at UGA. She transferred to Augusta University College. They've got a partnership program for nursing, so she was going through the nursing program now. She was a cross-country runner, a really, really strong athlete in high school, which makes sense why she was out running yesterday. She was on the dean's list. She was just, people said she would light up the room.
We are learning new details this morning about the man charged in the murder of a woman on the campus of the University of Georgia. Brian Enton has been following this case. He is live in Georgia. This case has just garnered national attention, Brian. Good morning.
Yeah, it has, Hannah, because it's just so tragic. This victim was such a beautiful young woman. She had so much to look forward to. Her life tragically taken. We're outside the jail here in Athens, Georgia. This is where the suspect was booked overnight. We know that he cooperated with police, at least somewhat. They say that they were questioning him, and then they brought him here to the jail sometime in the overnight hours. I want to show you the brand new mugshot, though, that we got of this guy overnight. This is Jose Antonio Ibarra. The police chief said that he is not a U.S. citizen, and through our border correspondent, Ali Bradley, we were able to confirm that he is from Venezuela, that he is in the country illegally. Through her sources, she confirmed that he crossed the border in El Paso in 2022, that he was stopped by the Border Patrol there, but because the facilities, the holding facilities are full, he was let go. He somehow ended up here in Athens, Georgia. Police say he brutally murdered 22-year-old Laken Riley near the intramural fields here at the University of Georgia. It's terrible. She was out on a run. Her roommate was concerned when she didn't come home, called the police. They went out and looked, and very quickly they discovered her body in a wooded area. The chief says she suffered blunt force trauma. Right now, Ibarra charged with a number of different things, including malice murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, kidnapping, hindering a 911 call, and concealing the death of another. Listen to what the chief told us last night.
The evidence is robust. It is supported by key input from the community, physical evidence, and expert police work. Importantly, we were assisted by video footage from our campus security cameras networks, which proven vital in many cases. At this time, the investigation suggests that they had no relationship. He did not know her at all. I think this was a crime of opportunity where he saw an individual and bad things happen.
I think that's what makes this just so terrifying. You see out there, they're looking through dumpsters. This was yesterday and into last night, all around where that man lived, where Ibarra lived. Obviously, they're looking for something because they went into every single dumpster. They went into every single trash can, going through all of the trash bags. As for the victim, Laken Riley, obviously this entire community is still in shock over this. We know that a vigil is now planned for her Monday at her sorority here in Athens. Hannah?
Brian, you and I have lived in Georgia. We've reported in Georgia. We know this area very, very well. What is the school telling its students? Should they be worried, especially now knowing this was a random attack?
Well, they're telling them now that things are safe. I mean, yes, they were concerned before the arrest was made yesterday. They actually shut down the University of Georgia. They canceled classes until Monday, which is pretty much unprecedented. There has not been a murder here in 40 years. So you can imagine how on edge this campus was, but obviously relief now that this suspect is behind bars, and the chief made very clear they don't believe anyone else is involved, Hannah.
Brian Enton, live in Georgia. Great reporting as always, my friend. Thank you so much.
Just moments ago, a suspect identified in the murder of 22-year-old University of Georgia student Laken Hope Riley, found dead on campus, brutally murdered. Outrage is rising, especially on word of who may have done it. Let's go to NewsNation senior correspondent Brian Enton live in Athens, Georgia, with the latest. What do we know, my friend?
Yeah, Chris, press conference just wrapped up. The suspect is Jose Antonio Ibarra. He is a 26-year-old man, and the police chief here in Athens at the University of Georgia says that Ibarra is not a U.S. citizen. Exactly what that means, whether he is in the country illegally, we don't know. The chief said he didn't know, but he says he does know for sure that he is not a U.S. citizen and that he believes he is from Venezuela. The charges he is facing include malice murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, false imprisonment, hindering a 911 call, and concealing the death. They say that this young woman died of blunt force trauma, Chris. It was a brutal beating. She went out for a jog. She's a nursing student. She didn't come home. The roommate was worried, called the police. They went out and looked near the intramural fields here at the University of Georgia, and that's when they discovered her body.
Brian, any indication on whether or not they believe this is a one-off or whether or not they have other unsolved homicides in the area or assaults?
They said, yeah, right now they said no indication that he's involved in anything else, but they called this a crime of opportunity and said that they did not know each other at all, that the victim and the suspect had no relationship that they know of. Again, she was just out jogging, and he apparently attacked her.
Not part of any organization or group or anything else. They believe that this is the guy. And how did it come up where he was from and what his legal status is?
Yeah, the chief just said it, that he is not a U.S. citizen. He lived in an apartment building very, very close to near where Laken's body was found. I want to read you a little bit of this, Chris, because I found this really touching. Her family has posted a statement on a GoFundMe, and this really was a wonderful young woman. Laken, she was a class of 2025 nursing student here at the university. She was sweet. She was in Alpha Chi Omega when she was at the university. Compassionate soul whose life was sadly cut short. No words can express the pain and heartache that they feel. She was a wonderful friend, sister, daughter, touched the lives of everyone. Her infectious smile and contagious laugh lit up every room she entered. Not only did she have a kind-hearted spirit, but she excelled in academics. She was on the dean's list. She was a star cross-country runner. I mean, this young woman had everything ahead of her. You know, just crime of opportunity. I mean, she was just out on a jog in the same place that she goes running every single morning. By the way, it was broad daylight. I mean, this was, you know, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning yesterday.
Right. Look, crime of opportunity is another way of saying she was hunted by a monster. And this is one of our best being taken out by one of our worst. Brian Enton, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll stay on this story because this guy not being a U.S. citizen is going to resonate, okay? It's not Enton's job. It's not my job, but you're going to hear it in politics. Now, let me just give you some context. How many homicides do we have in the United States annually? Homicide is where someone causes the death of another. About 19,000 in 2023. That number's high, right? It's actually down about 12, 14%, depending on what blend you look at data-wise. 77% of you think that number is up. Why? Because of how we demonize in our party politics. How many of those homicides are committed by non-citizens? 0.00005%. 29 last year. But the illegals commit a lot more crime than citizens, right? Wrong, unless you include their illegal entry. The arrest rate for non-citizens is half of that for citizens. Now, here's my point. Everybody knows the border is a problem. They shouldn't have to scare you. The realities are frightening enough. Everyone should know that your leaders choose not to fix it because the problem works better for them politically than any solution. Why? Because it keeps you scared. It makes it easy to keep you divided. Who's got no heart? Who's got no brain? It makes it easier for them to get votes. And that's why you just saw that bill come and go, just like that. But the idea that illegals are driving murders and making us less safe, it's no more true now than it was when Katie Steinle's murder was abused for political advantage. The truth is enough. The border is broken. Bad things are going to happen when people come in unchecked and unregulated and unvetted. There's no reason to make it up into a boogeyman. The reality and the truth is enough for you to demand action.
We're going to turn now to the growing anxiety along the border and the immigration crisis. Numbers do vary, but it's safe to say that at least 7 million people have crossed into this country illegally since President Biden took office. Now, if only a tenth of those are violent criminals, that is still a troubling 7,000 felons who've recently snuck into the U.S. Well, one of them is charged in that gruesome murder last week of University of Georgia nursing student Laken Riley. And today, we learned more unsettling details. Venezuelan Jose Ibarra allegedly used an object to hit 22-year-old Laken Riley in the head so hard he, quote, disfigured her skull. That is according to court documents obtained by NewsNation. The illegal immigrant then allegedly dragged Riley's lifeless body to a wooded area on campus to try to hide the brutal crime of opportunity. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp just came on NewsNation moments ago and said we need to do better at the state and federal level to get these migrant criminals off our streets.
I think the biggest thing is making sure that we have local governments, local law enforcement that's willing to work and communicate with ICE and Homeland Security and you know, state resources and others, so that we know who these people are. Right. Especially if people that are here illegally have committed crimes. I mean, we don't need to be letting them back out on the streets again. We need to be deporting them or detaining them so they're not creating more crime in our neighborhoods.
Well, Ibarra illegally crossed the border in 2022. He was subsequently released by border officials, actually after only 21 hours, due to a lack of space. Then, a year later, he was arrested in New York City for endangering a child. Outrage over Riley's murder is leading members of Congress to demand answers from the Biden White House over how someone like Ibarra was able to slip through the custody cracks. And that outrage isn't only being felt on Capitol Hill, it's also hitting border communities thousands of miles away, say in Southern California, which is where we find NewsNation's Jorge Ventura. Jorge, we know that they've been releasing hundreds and hundreds of migrants on the streets because the holding facilities are full down there.
Yeah, that's right, Elizabeth. And actually, since October here in the San Diego sector, agents have encountered over 100,000 migrants. This is all coming as a migrant center here was forced to close its doors after the county ran out of money. Now, hundreds of migrants are being street released into the community of San Diego every day, majority being men from all over the world. And after our report on Monday, residents reached out to me on social media saying they have huge concerns on public safety issues. One resident saying, are these individuals even properly being vetted before release into the public? I spoke to a local San Diego mother of 3 who says not only is she worried for her kids, but also her neighbors and other family members in the community as these street releases continue.
It is very concerning as a mother. I have a daughter who is 19, so I see my daughter as that student. We are concerned for our children, our daughters and our sons. You know, truthfully, there's an opportunity, a crime of opportunity for many of these migrants that are coming in.
And this is coming as Border Patrol agents have encountered over 100,000 migrants from 75 different countries since October. And federal agents are also expressing to El Cajon Mayor Bill Wells to expect migrant street releases to start up again in his community, a community that's already dealing with a growing homeless population. Here's what the mayor had to say about the growing situation.
We don't know why they're here. We don't know if they've been in prison before. We don't know if they're here for good reasons or bad reasons. But we're already seeing in New York that there's been a lot of migrants been involved in violent crime in New York City. Obviously in Georgia, we just had that nursing student who was murdered. And I think we're going to find out more about that. And I think that's just the tip of the iceberg.
And Elizabeth, as you mentioned, Ibarra was actually, when he crossed illegally, was released in just around 21 hours. And what was interesting is when I interviewed migrants that were street released on Monday and asking them when did they cross illegally into San Diego, they said that they crossed late Saturday night and less than 48 hours later have been street released into the community. And that's what's going to worry residents. And as of right now, the county of San Diego has not approved any more funding for the migrant crisis. So expect those street releases to continue every day.
Those street releases really have people on edge. And as a Border Patrol agent told us last night, literally no background checks are done on these migrants. We know many of them are just here for a better life, but we don't know who they are, where they come from, and what their lives were like or what their criminal history may be. Jorge Ventura, thank you so much, reporting live from the border in Southern California.
Well, right now, police are questioning a person of interest just one day after the body of 22-year-old nursing student Laken Riley was found on the campus of the University of Georgia. Earlier on NewsNation Now, our national security contributor, Tracy Walder, weighed in.
This is a huge campus that has not had a homicide in 20 years. So really that makes it very, very safe. What really stands out to me is the fact that they seem to have potentially, again, we don't know for certain, narrowed in on a suspect, in my opinion, pretty quickly. And so what that tells me is that they found a person of interest. It's most likely not through forensics, as that takes quite some time to come back, probably a week to 10 days or so. I personally believe that this person was found either through cameras that were set up along the route, because where her body was found was around a busy road and perhaps they caught a license plate, or through looking through her phone. Maybe this was someone that was in contact with her. So that's kind of what stands out to me the most about this.
All right, and we do have an official statement from the University of Georgia. Again, right now details are pretty limited, but it does say that they stress this is a active, ongoing investigation, and they'll provide further updates when circumstances warrant. So, Tracy, this case does involve the University of Georgia Police Department, the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the Athens-Clarke County Police Department, and federal law enforcement. What does that tell you? And I'm particularly wanting to zoom in on the federal aspect.
So in my opinion, the federal aspect is being brought in there to exactly what you said, to really work with those other 3, 4, because you also have campus police most likely involved as well. So now you've got 5 total law enforcement entities. And a lot of times when that happens, there needs to be an effort to coordinate all that information and also to coordinate it very, very quickly, because potentially you could have a killer on the loose, and the school and the community has to keep its citizens safe. And so they most likely brought in federal authorities to help really organize that effort. That's typically when they're brought in, is when you have multiple law enforcement entities, when they do in this case, to really go through this. This is a very brazen crime. It sounds like it really occurred in broad daylight in a pretty well-traveled area. And so they are going to have a large amount of probably forensic data as well as digital data to go through, and the federal law enforcement will really help them streamline that.
You know, and Tracy, you brought up a good point there. This did happen during the day. She went on a morning run. Someone called police to say she hadn't returned, her body discovered shortly after noon local time. How does that change the nature of the investigation? How likely are there to be potential eyewitnesses? We know they're knocking on doors out there, you know, people who may not even realize they were witnessing something potentially nefarious.
That's right, Nicole. You really hit the nail on the head with that. A lot of times people don't realize that they were actually witnesses to crimes, especially when you have things like Ring doorbells that are constantly picking up motion and those kinds of things. Police are going to be asking for that information. And this young woman really was going for a run on the intramural fields, and those are pretty well-traveled fields. A lot of students go running around them. So I guess in theory, she was doing everything right, if you think about it. You know, going out for a run in broad daylight, she had told her roommate that she had gone out for a run. And so I think this is very shocking to a community when something like this happens in an area that really one is supposed to be in.
Right, absolutely. Well, the UGA police chief had said previously, you know, quote, when you have a suspect on the loose, there's always a danger. But he then added that there was no immediate danger at this time. Do you agree?
I hate to disagree sometimes with law enforcement, but I do disagree a bit, because in my opinion, you can really never be too safe. And I do understand the need to not wanting to get an entire community full of tens of thousands of students and residents sort of up in arms. But in my opinion, everyone has the right to really keep themselves safe. And if that means locking your door, whatever it is that makes you feel safe, I do feel it's not, you know, an imminent threat in that there's, you know, some mass shooting or someone that's armed and dangerous. But in my opinion, it's not a threat that should be downplayed or played off.